What's up, guys? It's Tony Holiday. I hope you guys are all doing good. Somebody asked a really great question in the Tony Holiday Discord the other day about what notes you should hit for your 808s. 808s are a staple part of trap and modern music. There isn't really a definitive process for how to do it. You can approach it multiple different ways, and the 808's kind of special because, yes, it is a drum hit and it originated as a kick drum in the TR-808 Drum Machine, but it's also kind of morphed into being a melodic instrument in today's modern music. So today I figured instead of telling you what notes you should hit on your 808s, because it's different every time, I would just go over my process for how I do my 808s when I'm making beats. There's not really a definitive way to approach this. It's just a lot of trial and error and knowing which paths you can take to kind of get to your final pattern or at least get some ideas down. If you haven't joined the Tony Holiday Discord yet, I highly recommend you do so. It's a group of music producers and we're all just exchanging ideas, giving each other feedback and asking questions and answering questions. With that being said, let's jump into Logic. I'm gonna show you my process for how I figure out 808 patterns. I'm gonna do it all in Logic Pro. Let's go. Alright, you guys, you should be able to see my screen here. What I have is just a basic beat that I was working on the other day, and I thought it would be a good example for how to show you different 808 patterns and how you can approach 808s when you're making beats. So let me grab my headphones and let's jump into the project. So the first thing we're going to do is just listen to this beat back, and that will give you an idea of the 808 pattern that I used for it. But then I also have this one down here, which is 808 part 2, and that was a different 808 pattern that I added for the purpose of showing you in this video. And then I'll kind of go over one from scratch and I'll try and make an 808 pattern that's different than these two, or at least I'll start it from scratch and it might end up being similar to one of those ones. Let's take a listen to this melody first off. It's just 3 synths here. There's this synth Skyscrapers from Serum. And I have a Filter Freak on there by Sound Toys as well. And then I have these two kind of mallet pluck sounds as well. And then we put it all together, it sounds like the one that I played you before. Now, the next thing I have here is this drum loop, and this includes the original 808 that I made for this beat. I believe I used the infamous Nick Mira All Girls Are the Same 808 for that one. I'm going to jump into this pattern here and I'll show you why I made it this way. This one actually has quite a bit going on in it as well. There's 2 notes here. We have the C sharp and then we also have the G sharp. Now if I go back to this pluck here, you can see that I have C sharp here for this chord, and then this one up here is in fact the G sharp. So in the melody pattern throughout this, we have those 2 notes as staple points in that. So the 808 is going to resonate with those ones as well. It's going to be in key and it's hitting notes of the chords that are being played. Now this pattern doesn't definitively have chords being played per se, but those notes fit into this pattern. So let's just take a listen to this first 808 pattern with the melody, and then I'll play you the second one as well. So this is what this one sounds like. And this one is the second one. Now this one here, if I remember correctly, what I got it from was this mallet. And these bass notes here, which is the G sharp, the A, the B, and then back down to the A. If I go to this pattern here, we have the G sharp, we have the A, we have the B, and then back down to the A again. One definitive way for you to always have your 808 be on is to copy the bass notes of the chords that you're using in your pattern. Now again, this one might not be the best example because it's kind of a jumbled all over the place melody in this sense, but we do have these bass notes down here that I did make into the part 2 pattern. You can approach it multiple different ways, but a surefire way for you to always make sure that you're in key, or even a good starting point, is to grab the bass notes of one of your melody, bring them down to the 808, and then add in kind of passing notes from there. That's kind of a cool way for you to get started at least. The patterns themselves might be a little bit boring. When you start adding the passing notes and then it becomes a little busier, like this part 1 808, that's when it gets interesting. Something else I want to add as well. Yes, this one is a pretty busy pattern. It also still fits with the drum loop. The point at which when I'm making my beats, I add the 808, I'll typically do it right after I've done my melody. So first when I'm making the drums, or I'll do it after I've made the drums, but I haven't done hi-hat rolls yet. I find the rolls to be nice kind of accents to add in later. I think the 808 is more important to get down before you add in hi-hat rolls. Let's actually duplicate this track, and we're gonna make an 808 pattern here based on the bass notes of one of the melodies. Let's go up to the pluck here. Let's grab these bass notes down here. So what I did is just highlighted them all and I pressed Command C. We will go down to this 808 here, make a MIDI region, and then I'll do Command V to paste them. In relation to this melody, let's just play this 808 pattern and see how it sounds. Pretty boring. It's just hitting down on every single bar there. This is where you kind of want to start making different chops and points that you can bounce around a little bit. This is what I would do. I would highlight all of these and I would make them about the size of that. So a quarter note or even an eighth note. And then I would do my brush tool by pressing TB on my keyboard. And I would change it to an eighth note over here on the time quantize. Then what I would do is I'd start to add in notes per bar based on the one that hits on the downbeat here. For example, we could go like this, maybe this, and this, and this. This isn't a pattern that I would use. However, this is what I mean in terms of putting notes down. So let's just take a listen to this really quick and see how it sounds. Not the best. I mean, some of it worked, some of it didn't. But this is kind of the idea that I would give when it comes to getting in the process of making your patterns. So you start with them being on every downbeat on each bar, and you know you've used the bass notes, so it's going to be with the melody, and then you add in certain notes there. This is kind of where it gets to be a little bit of creative trial and error, if you will. I'll basically just play the loop over and over, and I'll just add in notes where I think it would work good. So I'm gonna add in this melody as well, the pluck, and let's go back to here, and I'm gonna start adding notes based on the melody where I think they fit in best. So that one worked a little bit better. The 808 bass notes are fitting in places where the melody allows them to fit. Yes, I know the 808 is, a kick drum effectively, but again, it has kind of morphed into a way that it's actually a melodic instrument while you're playing. It's a bass. These all fit in nicely based on the melody. And if you notice too, I moved this note from the downbeat of the 2 bar up to here. So that being said, you don't have to have it hit on every downbeat. This is still the bass note for this bar here based on the melody, but it actually comes in on the second beat here of this bar. That little delay there just adds a little more variation and kind of bounce to the beat. So that's one way you can do it. You can grab the bass notes down and then start adding and accentuating notes based on the melody. But let's delete this, and then we're gonna do this again. What we're gonna do is we're gonna do it completely from scratch. That was an example of how I'd make the 808 right away without any other drums in there. But if I add in the rest of the drum loop here and we try and make the 808, I bet it'll be a bit different. Now we're having to work with other parts of the beat that already have sound in them. So we're again starting to work the 808 around other drum hits. Let's try and make an 808 pattern now from scratch based on the other drum loop here. We'll open this up, we'll get our brush tool. I like to do things in a higher octave. It helps me hear them better, and then I'll drop them down afterwards. Let's also turn off the hi-hat pattern because it's pretty busy. So we're gonna do it around the kick, the percussion, clap, and another snare. So I know the key of the song is C sharp minor, so I'm gonna start on that one. Kind of tried something a bit experimental here. At the end on the last bar, I went from this G sharp and I just added a B in there where it kind of glides up and then it's going back down to the C sharp minor to finish it off. I don't know if it's gonna work. I didn't mind the sound of it when it was in the higher octave. Let's try it in the lower octave and see if it's something that would work in this case. What I'll do is I'll select all by pressing Command A. I'll do Shift Option down, and you want the lowest notes to be around the root key. So if I brought this down, these notes here would probably work, these top ones, but these ones down here are way too low. It's okay if these ones are a bit higher, but the absolute lowest note should be around the root key so that you're still gonna be able to hear the bass. Let's take a listen to this, and let's do forced legato to make sure all the notes glide into each other. Do Shift and /. Let's listen to this 808 pattern with the melody and the drum loop. So it didn't actually sound too bad going up to this B here and then back down to the C sharp minor. That worked. If we look at our other 808 pattern, we can see that it's actually different. It's different than that one. We can look at the original one that I ended up going with up here, and we can see it's different again. That's kind of how 808s work. They're a melodic instrument, however, they're a drum hit, basically. They allow you to really add rhythm to your beat, but also you have to play it based on being in the key of the song. So let's play the whole loop now with this new 808 pattern. So this will be part 3. And let's actually put the hi-hats on as well, and we'll do the other melody here. So at the end there, after hearing that, I don't know if I like that. I'm gonna actually move this up here. I think that actually sounds better than going down to the C sharp at the end of the 4th bar there. It kind of goes all the way up, and then when it goes back to the 1, it drops to the C sharp again. Another question that I get a lot is, do you always match your kick drum to your 808? I do not, personally. What I see a lot of producers do is they'll make the 808 pattern first, they'll then make the kick pattern exactly the same, except the kick will just be all on one note, and it just accentuates the 808. There's nothing wrong with doing that by any means, but I kind of like to have the kick have some variation in there. I just think it sounds good. So let's actually play the kick and the part that we just made, and it's just playing along with the 808 pattern. Funny enough, when I made this new 808 pattern, the one that I just did, it's actually pretty similar to the kick pattern. That subconsciously could have been when I was making it, I was hearing the kick in my head. You'll notice that this second note here, this second kick, is not on an 808. It does like the kick, and then the 808 is on this note here. And I think the last one here, this one's a bit different too. So it doesn't have to be on it all the time. You can if you want, you don't have to have it that way. My recommendation is typically to just go what sounds best. Again, you can almost do the same process of when you're making your 808s by copying the bass notes of the melody, and you could copy the kick based off the 808 and then make changes and variations from there. But I personally just like to go with what I think sounds best. I don't like having too many kicks in my beats. This is actually too many in my opinion. That's what I thought sounded good at the time, and I think it worked for this one. Let's have a listen again to all 3 of the 808 patterns and the differentiation of them, and then we can kind of pick which one we want best, and we'll just leave it at that. This is the original 808 pattern that I chose to use for this beat. This is 2. And this is 3. They all work, they all sound good, they all add a bit of a different feel. I think I'm probably gonna do either 1 or the one we just made, 3. I'll stay with 1 just because I kind of like the way that this one moves around a little bit more in terms of rhythm, but it doesn't have too many differentiating notes. I just think it sounds the best in this case. The final one with the original 808 that we had. So that's the process that I use, guys, when approaching 808s. I will typically have the melody down, I'll be moving on to the drums. I'll either do the 808 first, based on the melody, based on the bass notes, or I'll just go creatively from scratch, either one of the two there. Or I'll make the whole drum pattern first, but I won't have done hi-hat rolls. I'll do the 808 and then I'll finish off the drums doing hi-hat rolls. And that's kind of how I build the rhythm and bounce to my beats using 808s. All right, you guys, that's how you can use 808s effectively as a melodic instrument and also a drum hit while building your beats. It's important to keep in mind that the rhythm and the notes that you use will heavily affect the beat, especially because the 808 and the kick drum are kind of some of the only two instruments that will actually be in the really low frequencies. They stand out quite nicely. Keep that in mind when you are building your beats. There's no definitive process. However, you can follow the way that I did it there, just by using the bass notes of the melody or creatively doing it from scratch and just seeing what sounds good. It's really up to you. There's no rules with this. It's just about making something that sounds the best and leaves enough room for an artist to get on it. With that being said, if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel as I'm always putting out more music production content. Make sure to give me a follow on Twitter and Instagram, and consider joining the Tony Holiday Discord as well. Lots of great music producers in there asking questions, giving each other feedback, answering questions, and really just building a community of music producers. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I hope you enjoyed that one. This is Tony Holiday. Take care.